Hello everyone, I'm Samantha Jane Smith.
And I'm Jacob Keynes, and you are listening to the Classical Queer Podcast. Welcome back to the Classical Queer Podcast. We are very, very thrilled this month, to be joined by Alex and Anna, who are, I suppose I could say, co-founders of the Victoria-based Gay for Nature, which I'll let you explain how you function and what you program and how you think about music and queer performance. But I love the line at the intersection of queer performance and ecology. Well, maybe I should probably let you say it, but climate ecology and sustainability, which is, I think, is something that if it's not dear to everybody's heart, it probably should be more so. But maybe I'll let you put it in your own words, what you do with Gay for Nature, and who you both are, where you kind of have come to this world of queer performance individually. Maybe Anna, you'd like to start.
Sure. Thank you so much for having us. It's really nice to chat with you both. And I just love that this podcast exists. I know there's lots of queer classical musicians, and it's only just been more recently that we've all felt more free to talk about it and express and explore the classical canon through our queerness more collectively as a society. Gay for Nature Collective is mine and Alex's baby, and we explore the classical canon through a queer and ecological lens, which means that we sometimes take and queer old, already written pieces, pieces from the classical canon in art, song, or opera, and sometimes it means that we are supporting the local queer community in some kind of way, or we're doing some kind of initiative connected to caring for the earth. I'm very passionate about climate justice, and Alex is a highly educated bird boy. So I'll let him talk about his expertise as well, but he has a zoology degree from before he did a music degree. So yeah, we both just love nature, and we love being on the earth, and we love music, and we want to make the world feel safer and more joyful, particularly for queer people.
And Alex, tell us about how you maybe came to this.
Yeah, so for me, as Anna mentioned, I started off my undergraduate career not being a musician professionally. I did a zoology degree with a minor in piano performance, which was a lovely balance. You really get kind of the best of both worlds in that balance, at least at the University of Guelph. And I loved the music part of it so much that when I took a year off to decide whether I wanted to go to veterinary college or to zoology research, some guy named Torrin Childs just went, oh, by the way, you could do a master's in collaborative piano. And then turns out that was a cool option. So I did that. And ever since have been trying to figure out that connection between the musical side as well as the nature, the zoology, the queer ecology of it all. And so, yeah, that Gay for Nature is part of that exploration in a big way, through our initial conversations talking about this WC song cycle, these two songs that we just worked on, they're pretty cool, eh? But they're really straight in how most of the people in the classical community interpret it. But the poet was very gay. So maybe we should, resolve that a little bit. And so that came to our first project together of Green, which is based on Ariette Oubliée by Debussy and Verlaine. And we've been kind of figuring out our niche ever since.
Phenomenal. And where did you meet?
We met at the Victoria Conservatory of Music. I moved to Victoria in 2020, and I moved here to study with our mutual voice teacher, Nancy Argenta, and also Ingrid Atrot. But working at the conservatory was my way to pay my rent and get out here. It's a much more expensive city than I lived in before. I was in Winnipeg, and And Alex was teaching there and working there and also singing in the same voice studio. So we had lots of good chats out at the more remote location that VCM has. I one time made him watch Lil Nas X's Call Me By Your Name video with me, the Montero. When it came out, I was like, you have to watch this now. I like to think that was a foundational friendship moment.
I agree.
How did you? Obviously, Alex, you have the background in zoology, so obviously that gives you could give you the love of nature, and obviously you have with your interests. But Anna, where did your interest in nature come?
Yeah, I grew up from the womb, being at climate justice and anti-nuclear rallies. My dad is a lifelong climate activist, and for most of his life, he's mostly been doing climate justice work. My parents both work in refugee coordination now, which they see as quite connected because there are a lot of refugees as a result of the climate crisis. I grew up with a lot of knowledge and understanding in a way that I think many of my peers did not. I would say it wasn't always great for my mental health, in that I've just always been aware of how bad of a situation we are in and that we're going to be in. But it doesn't help to not know things. So I guess it's for the best. I was always passionate about that as well, and started doing anti-nuclear kind of things, research and speaking as a teenager in my small town in Saskatchewan. I grew up in England until I was 12, and then we moved to Saskatchewan. That's where my love of it comes from. And I just also have always felt very connected to the rest of nature, of which we are a part. I love spending time with the plants and the animals and just noticing. I just think there's so many lessons and wisdom just in the garden or in the yard, in the forest. And living on the island here, on Vancouver Island, which is a extremely stunning place. One reason I wanted to move here was because of how beautiful it is, which is a reason many people move here. Just feeling very connected to the trees and getting to go and see the old growth forests, which are very much in danger because our province was founded as an extraction company rather than a place of respecting the land and the trees. But there are many trees still that you can go look at, and it's very nourishing for me.
And I guess, Alex, I'm going to have to ask you where the bird boy comes from. That's a quote. A keen ornithologist, then?
I would say not as keen as some, but definitely a lover of birds. When I was in my undergrad, I was kind of on the periphery of wildlife club because choir also intersected at that time in the schedule. So I only got to go the first few meetings and last few meetings of the year. But in that group, there were people who had the specific title of Crazy Bird Chair. I never was the Crazy Bird Chair. And you know what? The people who were in that role, they could be driving in a snowstorm. And I've heard this anecdote from someone who went birding with them, that they could be driving in a snowstorm, looking straight forward, and then be 10 o'clock snowy owl. And then everyone in the car, sitting there, would just be looking really closely, and then would go, "Oh my God, there is a snowy owl there." So I'm not that intense, but I do have a background with birds. I used to volunteer at a group in Ontario called Wild Ontario, which is a non-releasable bird of prey program. So through that, I got to work with and learn from, and also teach about American crows, screech owls, kestrels, falcons, hawks, other owls, and the like. And can't forget the vultures. Lots of vulture love as well.
This, I think, is the first time we've ever had a discussion about vultures on our podcast. So thank you.
True.
I think birds. Yeah, I think this is a first. So thank you. That's really good.
You're very welcome. Vultures deserve lots of conversation and love. I did that during my undergrad and the year off between my undergrad and my master's. During my master's, I might have volunteered very briefly for a lab called AFAR, which is the advanced facility for avian research at Western University, where they have a whole like wind tunnel to study birds in flight and that kind of thing, among other very cool things. And then, started working in Victoria as a musician, so had a little bit of a hiatus, but recently, in the last 2 years, I've been helping out with the Pacific Northwest Raptors, doing some of their gull abatement work in downtown Victoria, so I get to free fly hawks on the tops of rooftops so that the gulls kind of go, maybe I don't want to nest in this particular neighborhood.
I think that's amazing. Gosh, I'd love to talk more about that. The free flying
so cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. But I guess we ought to mention music at some point. Let me just go back to something you said earlier, Alex, about, you take, often what appear to be straight, I guess, operas and things like that. And then, maybe written by somebody who was queer, and then you manipulate them to make them more relevant. Let me say, I don't quite know. Could you say a little bit how you do that? I mean, can you give us the listeners an example of something you've done like that?
Yeah, so I would say that the most exciting example that might be more widely available to the world in the future would be Green, our short film. We're currently working on getting it into film festivals, so at least on a local scale, it will not be released yet. But once we're kind of through that circuit, the world can see it.
And a trailer should be available soon.
Triste
But so Green took the Aria tu Plie song cycle, and usually it has a particular order that it was composed and published in, and people just kind of perform it that way, and it starts off kind of sexy, and then it gets a little exciting, and then it ends very sad. And we were like, hey, we would like to make this a little, like, highlight the Verlaine contribution a bit more, a little bit of also the interesting thought of oftentimes composers in the classical tradition will write things a little bit from a male perspective and then have like a female love interest kind of thing, but then they'll get sopranos to sing it. And so just kind of really taking advantage of that perspective of, well, you know, it could actually be, you know, a soprano singing about a woman and then they could fall in love, as opposed to, oh goodness, the soprano is the mouthpiece for the man who's lusting after the woman.
Yes.
Yeah. So many Uggs. But so we were like, okay, prioritizing both the queer perspective in the text as well as maybe not doing the whole doom and gloom, sad departure queer story. We rearranged the text, or we rearranged the songs in the order of performance. We got Kelly Conlon, a wonderful filmmaker, as well as Angelica Schwartz, a wonderful director, as well as a rest of a team that Anna, I'm sure, will love to talk about soon. But we created a world where we get to explore a queer relationship between Anna's character as well as another character played by our friend Loreto Espinosa, and how they connect in a time where Anna's character is also being haunted by climate grief, eco-anxiety, and the very contemporaneous issues. For example, when we were looking for some content for us to have on a phone during filming, we were like, wow, where are some floods and some fires? It's like, well, the ones that are happening yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, Anna, did you consciously, I mean, you say you changed some of these things, but did you you rearranged the music, but did you change the words for it? Did you change the musical content, or did you just play it in such a way, if you see what I mean, and put the content around it that made it queer?
Yeah, it's really more of the dramaturgy that kind of tells the more queer story, and the text and music lends itself very organically to that story. I think that was with a lot of input from our director, Angelica, who is also a dramaturge. And so, they had some really good ideas about how to move it around. Alex and I were working on 2 of the songs for a competition. And we were just imagining it very cinematically. And we thought, oh, what if we could make it actually just be cinematic? And so we were very lucky to get a big Canada Council grant to pay for the thing. And then, I would say everything, it could be viewed as, you know, from the way we're describing it as, you know, we're kind of taking stuff and making it gay, but it really feels very organic and authentic. And it's so pretty. It's really pretty. And it's really, it feels really real, I guess, really authentic.
I mean, I would also like to shoehorn in, not that I think either of us are anti just taking something and making it.
Yeah. We
Also,
did do that with the show this spring. we were doing a coffee shop tour of Bach's Coffee Cantata, and we have been kind of like thinking about it, and then we hired our director. Actually, Loreto Espinosa was our director for that show, and we're like, okay, can you just make it gay though? We're not sure how. Can you do it? We don't want to worry about that anymore. And she did.
Which totally works. That is also a valid way of like querying something in my book. And so you have this short film coming out. What does it feel like? What does it look like? I mean, so the musical content is the content that it is, but what direction did you go with it? Visually?
It's very visually lush, I would say, and quite romantic. The filmmaker, the cinematographer, Kelly Conlon, has done a lot of music video and also a lot of nature documentary stuff, which made it just perfect to make this kind of essentially an elongated classical music video that tells a full story. So it's lots of like very natural kind of nature-y look energy, but also there's some kind of dreamlike states, some haziness. There's a whole piece at the fair that's like very colorful and chaotic. And then the auditory world is really expanded. We had sound artist Jamie Reimer come and collect, for lack of a better word, nature sounds from the land on which we were recording. And so then she took that and really blended it in with our recording. So it's not just us singing and playing, it's also feeling like very connected to the earth. And she really, really amplified the auditory world through that. I don't know if Alex would have anything to add to that about what it looks and feels like.
Yeah, I would say that Anna is definitely right with the feeling of very romantic, but transitioning between a dreamlike state at times to something that is very stark in a real world kind of way. And particularly that fair number, that stark world starts getting a little bit nauseating in like the coolest way, with some cool filters and the like Kelly Conlon being the excellent filmmaker that she is. We gave her full reign to be like, okay, we are not filmmakers. If you feel inspired to play around with some kind of experimental techniques, feel free. And she took that and did such a beautiful job. From the sound world, Jamie Reimer's field recordings are such a delight, such a beautiful addition. And they really set us in a particular place. And I would say, even though it's a ways yet based on release times, but when people finally do see it, I'd recommend they stick around till the credits, because Jamie had the very, very great thought to make sure that every single species represented got a shout out in the credits.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really sweet. Nice. Jamie Reimer's quite amazing. She's a sound artist in Vancouver, and she recently produced and created a bioacoustic frog opera called Soft Tongues, and it's really quite amazing. She's kind of a frog music specialist at this point. Very cool.
That sounds fun.
I wonder. So I'm particularly fascinated by the ethos of a music ensemble, whether it's drawing from new music or classical canon music, that is connected to nature and ecology, because I happen to play in an ensemble here on the East Coast that is very, very similar in ethos. It's not a queer ensemble in any explicit way, although I suppose half of us are in some way queer. But
just all of you are, Jacob. Come on, admit it. Yes,
I'm there, yeah. So it's queer. But it's an ensemble. We're an octet generally of. Though we have had voice in the past, but we do primarily nature-based, ecology-based, climate action composers, living Canadian composers. And my question for us always internally is, in a little bit of a blunt way, what's the point? As in, like, what conversation are we trying to have, and is it helpful to ourselves, to the music? What is the music and the ethos of having nature-based, climate-based music being performed? How does that start a conversation? And we've talked about it amongst ourselves and what we think it is really useful for. But I'm really curious to pick your brains as people working in this really similar way, but in an entirely different set of repertoire, on an entirely different coast, with an entirely different practice. What conversations are you starting, even just amongst yourselves, that you think that the music is in aid of?
That's got everyone stumped, Jacob.
Sorry, that may be way too heavy a question, but I guess
it's not. It deserves thought. Yeah. Do you want to take it, Alex?
Yeah.
But by the way, in case anybody hears this on the thingy here, the cuckoo has just turned up in honor of Alex outside the window here, and it's just started cuckooing away. So
Aww.
I think that's come for you, Alex. But it's outside here at the moment. So if you hear it, that's what's going on.
That's nice.
Wonderful. I was just joking with my partner yesterday. I was like, we should just run away to the Black Forest and make cuckoo clocks for the rest of our days.
You guys would be great at that.
Neither one of us have whittling skills. But
I think
we
you
would
figure
learn.
it out. You have the energy of a lovely gay couple who runs away to the Black Forest and whittles cuckoo clocks. Absolutely.
Yeah. So back to Jacob's question, I would say that in my kind of longer term exploration of trying to connect my classical music practice with my zoology background, I have worked with a wonderful composer by the name of Hildegard Westerkamp. She has done a lot of really cool music that she's composed, or from either like traditional composing methods like notation, or she'll use field recordings and do some really, really exciting and excellent work with it. She has one piece called Cricket Voice, where she just got a really good sample of a cricket sound in a silent desert and just ran with it. Stunning, amazing. But when I was learning about soundscapes with her, she kind of talked about how, Schubert and Romanticism were really reactions against industrialization in many ways, with the poetry that really focuses on nature. And so, similar to how we were highlighting Verlaine and his queerness in Ariette Oubliée, I was thinking as well, there's we could just make this naturey, or is the nature already there? And I find that so much of it stunningly is. I know that in conversations in music schools and stuff, oftentimes it's like, well, what does the nightingale mean? Why are they describing these flowers? Like, what is a rose? It's a stand-in for your lover. And even though those are valid in their own way, I like to also think about it as there's something really beautiful about the experience of, sniffing a rose or taking in a cuckoo's song. And we can really highlight that element of the text, the poetry, the music, so that it can help reconnect us with nature, also in how we introduce and present a piece. So that it's not just like, oh, another pretty song where they happen to mention a bird, don't remember which bird, don't really care. But instead being like, for example, this piece that mentions a nightingale, if you're not in North America and instead in continental Europe, what is that experience like when you're out and about and you hear a nightingale, and how does that affect you, and how does that connect you to nature?
Yeah, I think that I love that idea of a rose could be it can be lots of things at one time. We don't have to be so binary in our interpretations of poetry. That's poetry is meant to draw on multiple levels. And also a rose existing, that's exquisite. In the grand scheme of things, that's just as exquisite as some particular lover, that a rose was there for a moment. For me, it's just obvious that music and climate justice and love of nature are connected, partially just because we are nature, and a cat. There's that old monastic poem about for I will consider my cat Jeffrey, and this cat Jeffrey is a servant of the living God, and the whole story goes by that this cat worships the divine by just being a cat, by walking around 7 times in a circle before sitting down. That's its worship, and looking this way and that, and lapping its milk, and saying meow, that's an act of worship just by being what it is. And I really think that we, whatever it is, whatever we believe in, we exalt or be part of the universe by being exactly what we are. And so I think there's that element to it. And I also think that for myself, art just is activism and always is connected to political thought and action, and to divorce art and and activism feels like a very capitalist colonial activity. Our art is for healing, I believe, and our art is for transforming and speaking truth. And so it can also be for fun and entertainment. And I think that connects to how pleasure is also a political act or political experience. But yeah, that's how I see them as connected.
Yeah, I mean, beautiful answers, both answers. I think there's something really immediate about art for many people that they don't. I think there's a lot of maybe turning off of I don't understand climate crisis, or I don't have an understanding of how it immediately affects me. For many people, I think there's lots of us who maybe have that immediacy. But anything that gets a conversation started in the visceral, you can understand it because it's sound and we're talking about it in your ear, is always a good thing. I think that's fantastic. But beautiful descriptions. Yeah, great. I love that.
I mean, it all sounds so romantic. That was what it's when you were both describing this. It was always like, oh, it's so romantic and this kind of thing, which is lovely. It's really nice. It was interesting you mentioned about art and politics, because there's quite a lot at the moment about, quite famous musicians being slated because they're involved in political things, particularly those going to help the poor and all this, and how you should stay non-political and all this kind of thing. So it was kind of interesting you said that. I mean, do you maybe deliberately or maybe not quite deliberately, but accidentally have political views that you kind of espouse when you do this queering of things?
Personally, from my perspective, I would say it doesn't seem overtly like, okay, we're going to go on a particular political event, but it does, we do sometimes ask questions of like, okay, well, if this particular corner is like this, will people think or reflect on a particular aspect of climate crisis or their experience in life, or queer people, and how silly they can be, for example, in the coffee cantata. To Anna?
Yeah, I think it's hard to, I don't know. I think a lot of people maybe think that it's possible to be apolitical, and I just don't think it is. And I think if you care about anything, it is political, and that's not bad. It's not a bad thing to be political. I think what we associate negatively with being political is, horrible behavior by politicians, slamming each other, and also just, systems of government that are harmful and oppressive and not just and fair. But I think that they don't have to be equated, or they don't have to feel like they're one and the same thing, like it just is political to be a person, to be a queer person, to be someone in relationship with the rest of the earth. So we may as well, in my humble opinion, accept that and do something nice about it.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. I think there's also something really specifically about the work that you are both doing, really something fascinating about, because I think a lot of this conversation of being queer and political and musical, or an artist being a political queer body on stage, happens with a lot of new music, because it's an obvious connection, as in we get to have the conversation that we're having in a contemporary way, in the sense that it's a here and now, and I'm the person that's affecting, and I'm the person talking about it, and it's the music, blah, 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 blah. I think it's really fascinating to take pieces of music that have a life and a history, and to see them through these different eyes, to see them through a queer perspective, and to see it through the modern queer political identity on stage, but have it be something from 200-300 years ago. And I wonder, so you talked about some Debussy, you talked about some Schubert, you talked some nature based tactics, but like what else is noodling around in your heads? What other things are kind of coming down the pike for you? What other composers? What other music?
Well, we just did Bach's Coffee Cantata. We're kind of early music enthusiasts as well, and we love some Bach. I grew up with a very firm diet of Bach and Mozart and Schubert in my house. My dad's a classical pianist, and yeah, we both love that stuff, and we both sing it. Alex is both a beautiful singer and also a beautiful collaborative pianist, so we have lots of flexibility with that. And we host an open mic for classical singers event now 3 times a year at Oak Bay United Church here in Victoria, which is just like a chance for the classical singer community to become a little more connected and have a performance experience that's just low pressure and loving. And the point is to create and love and not be worried about being judged, and work on that, that toxic perfectionism thing that we all are trying to recover from after going to music school. So through that, we get to have lots of different music, different things that people are performing. I will say the singer community in Victoria is quite queer. It's quite like a hub of queer singers, which is lovely. Victoria in general just is a pretty gay place. So it's a good venue for us. Other things that we're dreaming of, I mean, we'd love to work with living, not white man composers, So really Gay for Nature Collective is in its infancy, and it really was just came into existence because we had this idea for this film project and then got this incredible grant that made it possible. And then we got another grant that made our little tour possible. And we've had our open mic events. And now it feels like, oh, yeah, I guess we exist. That's so funny. Like, we're called Gay for Nature. And we get to exist. It's so silly and irreverent and joyful. We're all about that queer joy. So, but yeah, we'd love to work on some things. I just saw at Pacific Opera, I saw Nicole Ross performing some settings of texts by Sappho that Danica Loren wrote, and those are stunning. Big fan of Danica Loren's work. I'm writing a grant to do La Serva Padrona next year, which is early opera, early comic opera by Pergolesi. But I think Alex and I both have a lot of love for like the romantic German and French music as well. I don't know. What are you dreaming about, Alex?
Well, just
we got to do that Menotti. We got to do that unicorn.
Before launching into my own thing. The lovely thing, even though Gay for Nature is pretty young, is that we kind of have recently gotten like, okay, this is a good cycle of yearly activity as a base. For example, those open mics to create queer community, as well as just classical musician community within Victoria. Then also, hopefully, a yearly pop-up kind of cycle that was launched with the Coffee Cantata being a queer little romp with some iced coffee. And then also having maybe some more ambitious projects that take maybe a few years of development time, such as Green, and then maybe another film project. La Serva Padrona is going to be hopefully the one for next year for the pop-ups, but for that film project or some other kind of longer term project, it would be lovely to maybe engage with Danica Loren or like.
This is our official. We have not talked to Danica, but this is our official. No. Danica Loren, if you're listening,
please write in. Yeah, now, yes. If you've got a nice, good script, and that, yeah, fantastic. Yeah. I was going to ask you something you mentioned earlier, and it was just sort of a thought to me. You were talking about how you were taking relatively straight type of pieces and queering them. I do wonder if you went back, that some of those composers, particularly the ones that were gay in and of themselves, were actually taking pieces and saying, hey, I think we ought to make these straight. and trying to make them straight. Because I'm just kind of thinking of, some Mozarts where, there's what is it? There's the one where they end up with three in the bed at the end, and you know that one? What's it called? Oh gosh, I can't remember what it is. And this kind of thing. And I can just imagine Mozart sitting there writing, going, we ought to make these straight. This kind of thing. Was it Mozart? No, it wasn't. Anyway, I just kind of think that I always look back and think maybe they were doing the opposite of what you were doing.
Yeah, maybe. We're just bringing everything home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I kind of think, some of these composers are a little bit, sort of cheekier than you think, I think.
Yes.
I like to think that some of the composers have, how some authors are like, oh, I will put this out to the world, but I really want it to be taken this way. And then other authors are like, I've written my thing, I've contributed my pieces to this book, and now I'm letting it out to the world, and who knows what's going to happen with it, but have fun. I feel like Mozart would be a have fun kind of person. So even if he went in with an intent of being like, let's make this super straight. I feel like, if he were gazing down upon us from the heavens, he'd be like, yes. And then he'd probably post a picture.
Yeah, he was a very saucy and strange man.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this in one of our other podcasts, how, people have taken Mozart and done their own thing with the more Beethoven and this kind of stuff. And we were saying, yeah, they probably think it's fantastic that they've made it, Bach, all electronic Bach, or something like that, It's kind of, it's to think that they would still want the same thing is kind of, I think, a bit sad, really.
Yeah, I will stand by, aside from maybe the intense Lutheran Bach side, that he would love Wendy Carlos, that he would be obsessed with the idea of taking that music and making it an entirely different soundscape. I can't imagine why they wouldn't want to hear their music in these, what we are deeming like highly queered ways, but I think they would be very on board. But we can't describe it to them. I can't put words in anybody's mouth, but I think they would.
So
I thought you said that you couldn't put birds in anyone's mouth, and I was like, I love that phrase.
True. Yeah.
That's a great phrase.
How was these coffee shows you did? How were they received by, I guess, a general audience? Were they very positive about it? I mean, did you get good vibes out of it?
Oh yeah,
such good vibes.
The best vibes. Everyone was thrilled. We went to 4 different locations, and some people were there just by happenstance. Some people saw posters. Some people saw social media or knew people involved. Some people just wandering by, and it happened to them that an opera was occurring. And everyone was like, our audiences were packed. Everyone was thrilled.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And, we asked our director, make it gay. And then, she was like, well, iced coffee is maybe revolutionary. It's a sign of many queer communities. And then, so there was no queer romance in it. But then maybe there's something queer about that as well, because in the original Bach, it does seem a little bit lackluster that his solution was, well, she's wanting to drink coffee the whole time, and then I just dangle the idea of a husband in front of her, and then suddenly she's like, okay, I'll listen to you, Daddy. So the fact that we have...
the plot of the coffee cantata? Maybe we should
I don't have a musical background, so I kind of, some of these things go made. So do tell people the little quick background on the coffee cantata. One of you.
Sorry, my internet froze for a second.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes. So the original plot of the coffee cantata was that there's this girl, this daughter, and she really loves coffee. She has to have it at least 3 times a day, or else she'll be like a shriveled up little goat. And her father goes, how dare you drink that coffee? That's bad. No coffee. And, for a good probably 15 minutes, they go back and forth where he's like, no coffee. And she goes, I love coffee. No coffee. I love
it's
coffee.
It's very serious.
Very.
Coffee is serious. Come on.
Mm-hmm. Was it Beethoven who had like 72 beans every morning, and it had to be like an exact number? Anyway.
Oh my gosh.
But so, eventually the father kind of goes like, I know what women want. A husband. And then he goes, well, if you don't give up coffee, I'll never give you a husband. Because this was back when he could be like, yeah, you don't get to do anything, including no husband.
It's the 1600s. It's the 1600s, and coffee just came on the scene, and women are property.
Yeah. And then eventually she goes, oh no, father, goodness me, I'll give up coffee now. And apparently that's where the original text from Pickender, was it?
Yeah.
Ends. And then Bach apparently added a little bit more text where it was but actually she made every suitor agree that if they were to marry her, that she would be able to drink as much coffee as she wanted. And then there's a cute little trio about how everyone loves coffee. So that's the original. With ours, we took out the romantic interest. Instead, she is a solid, silly girl boss. Not that being a girl boss is silly, but just the buns. The buns were amazing.
She is a silly girl boss. The costuming was thrilling.
By the way, we got to incorporate clowning into opera, which was a delight.
It was awesome.
Perfect.
But yeah, she decides in this one she wants to inherit the family business, which is a cafe, and she's obsessed with iced coffee. And her dad, and by iced coffee, we mean like any kind of like fancy beverage. We've got our oat milk, we've got our ice cubes, we've got our lavender syrup. And the father is very old school, and he just is like, only drip coffee, only black coffee. And so they have this argument. She comes in and sings about how much she loves iced coffee. It gets a little bit sexual when she just starts thinking about all those icy cubes. The whole thing is very silly. It's staged wonderfully.
Oh,
and
it's all hot here.
There's a part where I'm just like basking in iced coffee like it's a celestial being, and like ice cubes are being thrown at me, and I'm like, and then they have this argument over and over, and then he says, okay, well, I'm not gonna like give you any of the nice clothes you want, or like the trip to like your hot vacation. And she's like, I don't care as long as I can have my iced coffee. And then he's like, okay, well then I won't give you the business. And she goes, oh, father, no, not the business. So then she decides she'll give up coffee, but then she notices that the notary who's signing their contract is he himself sneakily drinking iced coffee, which she's like, gasp, and then gets him to write it into the contract that she can have whatever beverages she wants at the cafe. And then, you know what? At the end, Dad drinks an iced coffee and he loves it. He's just being stubborn.
Surprise! Yeah. Oh, that sounds great. Look, it's a real shame you didn't video that. It's a shame you haven't got a.
Well, we have some videos. Yeah, we have some recordings. We'll stitch them together. We filmed all our performances. Okay. It's not a high quality recording.
Listeners, but that will be appended to this show, no doubt. We're going to get you a snippet that on
and we're very excited. Like, we rewrote the whole libretto as an ensemble. We had a wonderful bass translation that Nancy Argenta had been working on with someone, and then we, as a group, really crafted it to make sense with our context, and created costumes and props, and really like an original production. So we're looking into ways to sell this production for other places to be able to perform, because it's such an easy, little chamber opera for people to put together, and it's singable for younger singers as well, for people in university.
I love the idea of doing it in a coffee shop, though, just turning up and doing it.
We were in one coffee shop, and then one church where they served coffee to everybody, and then one outdoors in outside of an art gallery that we have a relationship with coffee served, and then in Friends of Dorothy, which is one of our gay bars here in Victoria, they have brunch. So it's like, eat your brunch and drink your coffee. And they like really got it. They got all of it. They were like, they're just like, yes, the gays have turned up for the iced coffee. And I was like, yeah, that one felt good. They got all of our kind of like little jokes that maybe went over the heads of other people. It was really cute.
I would love to see you come and do that where I live, because it is the most straightest place in the world. I would love for you to be there, and I would just be laughing all the time as I see people try to understand what's going on. It would be fantastic.
I think everyone was thrilled. I mean, everyone just loves silliness, and the thing is, everyone loves a fun camp time. Even the homophobes love a fun camp time.
Yeah.
So
sounds fantastic. So we've talked a little. Sorry, go on, Jacob.
Oh, it's just that we should have more of it. That's great.
Yeah. It was a nice thing to have, like, just to inject some like joy. Like, it really felt like we just got to like give everyone an espresso shot of joy in half an hour and then move on. But it felt nice to be able to do something, because sometimes, like, I think especially as Canadians, like Canadian literature in general tends to be like so depressing. And artists reflect on, the challenges, the sorrows. Sometimes it's okay just to have like fun, and that is a bit healing for us, so that we can do the harder work, have energy for it.
But it's, I mean, generally in my experience, gosh, that sounds awful. I mean, it's queer spaces are generally fun. I mean, in my experience, anyway. I mean, it's not like it's not known. I mean, it's kind of everywhere you go where there's an experience. It's kind of fun. I mean, it's rarely depressing.
It's true. We are known for having a good time.
Yeah, of course. We're getting the party vibes on now. Yeah.
So where is specifically, as in when is your short film maybe coming out, and where can people find you again, and where are you maybe singing again in person?
Well, okay, first of all, I would say to keep up to date on things, our Instagram is the prime spot. We also have a Facebook. On all of the social medias, we are at gay4 nature. So like the number 4 rather than the number 4 written out in letters, Gay for Nature. And the film will have a trailer soon. Just getting some ducks in a row first. It's ready. I just have to, I'm the marketing person. I got to organize how we get that out. But that will be out soon. Perhaps we can attach that to this podcast. And and so that's kind of like a hub of information. I'm working on our website as well. The thing with film festival, we didn't know. We have no idea what we're doing, We're just figuring it out as we go. We've learned so much through this process. And making a film takes a really long time, even though it's just 20 minutes of film. So we've been working on it for 2 years. And we're going to be applying for festivals for at least a year. We have a date later this week, I think, to just spend money. We're going to sit down and apply to festivals, which is exciting. We got our little savings account to do that. Thanks to the Coffee Cantata tour, people who made donations that help us apply to more festivals. Lots of festivals require that you don't have the piece screened before that festival happens. So we hope maybe we can do some private kind of invite only by donation on the DL kind of events before then, but probably we can't do a real screening release kind of thing for like a year. And then the hope is that eventually, opera companies and different organizations would be interested in purchasing screenings of it for their events or their seasons, and then that it would have an ultimate home on some kind of streaming platform like CBC Gem. Like the easy thing to do would have been that we could have just put it on YouTube and sent it around to everyone. But we think it's really special, and we really believe in everyone involved. Like our team was quite amazing, and we just want it to have as much impact as it can, even though it's a bit of a slow journey getting there. And I feel sad telling people, I'm sorry, you still can't see it. And then November 3rd, if you live in Victoria, come at 3 p.m. to Oak Bay United Church for our next open mic classical singer event. It's free to come and attend and watch the show. And we'll announce other things online. Alex has a website. I have a website.
We will happily link those too.
We'll put some of this in the publicity. So, look, it's been a pleasure talking to you. It's been absolutely fantastic and really excited. I'm really looking forward to seeing this coffee cantata. I really am. So that'll be lovely. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us, and thank you for this beautiful work that you're doing. It's so lovely to see and so great to finally meet you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for having us. I was perusing through some of the past episodes and was so pleased to see some of the people that you've had on, because I'm like, oh, I know about you. I've seen you perform a concerto and you're amazing. And just to get to see the inside part of their perspectives as queer classical musicians.
And may I make a recommendation for 2 books? You had mentioned earlier, some people see the climate crisis and go, I don't even know anything about this. I'm overwhelmed. I imagine you're well acquainted with these books, but I just thought I'd mention Under the Sky We Make, which is by Kimberly Nicholas. And then everyone's fave soothing book, Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall-Kimmerer. I think those are 2 great places to start if you are afraid about the climate crisis, but don't feel like you know that much, and also don't want to get overwhelmed too quickly.
That's great. Thank you. Thanks ever so. Oh, sorry. Go on. Alex,
we can't stop.
One more thing. Cancel that.
One more thing. Because I know that Anna and I have the wonderful fortune of being here on the West Coast. If you're looking for West Coast vibes, as well as just a little bit of education on the Salish Sea and ocean stewardship, I'm doing a project with Oceanwise. And through Oceanwise, I created this musical narrative called The Adventures of Kelp Creature. And it uses the perspective of an actual Salish Sea humpback whale who goes to the kelp forest and then gives a sense of the ecosystem there, as well as some contemporary challenges and solutions. And it's freely available. It's a fun time, and I got to hire a whole bunch of friends to make wonderful music with me on it. So if you're curious about that, that exists.
It's a great resource.
Thank you. Any more? Have we got any more?
Is there anything else we're doing, Alex? I don't remember.
Anything else you're doing? Anything else? Yeah, because you're making me nervous that you're doing so much. I mean, kind of, I feel like I've got to do more.
Like this Sunday at the conservatory, there's the last big idea concert of the year, which is looking at inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility within the music sphere in Victoria. So I get to sing some solidly gay barber and quilter, which is always a delight.
Sounds fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To Oak Bay United Church. If you haven't been here before, my name is Anna. I'm the music minister here, but today we're here in a different capacity with our opera collective, Gay for Nature. This is Loreto, and she is the director for our show, so she's going to give us a little word of welcome. I'm sure you've all been informed where the bathroom is. It's kind of down the hall, down the stairs, and help yourself to some coffee at any point. Enjoy!
Hello, I'm Loreto. I'm the director and costume maker for this show. This is the fruit of just a couple of days of a lot of love and clowning and silliness, and accompanied by beautiful music and singers. So yeah, it's not very often that a cantata is made staged. So here we are. Enjoy Coffee Cantata by Johann Sebastian Bach.
and listen to what's happening here. Here lives old Schlendrian with his own daughter Lizzie too. He's growling like a grizzly bear. Pay attention to what's going on. Child, you wild young lady, oh, when at last will I succeed to rid you of iced coffee?
Dear father, do not be so harsh. If you say I will drink my precious coffee with shame, then I will soon be home so withered, just like a dried up little lizard.
out so much, not even one day off.
All right, just leave me with my frosty cup.
But here's a thing to change your mind then. That trip you wanted to the Riviera, I won't buy it.
That's fine, I'll do without.
You shall not sit beside the seashore and watch the people on the beach.
No problem. Just show me some mercy, and I'll have a frappuccino.
You shall not have a thing from me, no trust fund nor summer home in breezy blue Tofino.
Yes, just leave me with my pleasure.
My daughter, stop and think. You'd give up all for such a drink.
He's so dramatic.
Daughters who of willful nature, are not easy to win over. Daughters, who of willful nature, are not easy to win over. Not easy, no. Easy, no. Daughters who of willful nature, are not easy to convince. But when you say the right thing, but when you can say the right thing, you can teach them to obey. Oh, yes, teach them to obey. Yes, teach them to obey. Yes, teach them to obey. But when you say the right thing, you can teach them to obey. Yes, teach them. Yes, teach them to obey. Teach them to obey. You can teach them to obey. When you say the right thing, yes, you can teach them to obey. Now listen to what your father says.
In everything except iced coffee.
So be it. You must accept that you will not ever take over my business.
Oh my cruel father, please the business.
I swear that it will never be.
Unless I give up pleasure now, then cold brew, it's goodbye, I fear. Oh, Father, here, I'll never drink it again.
At last you'll finally own my business.
I've been working on it for about a week. I think I'm ready. On this day, oh dear Father, have it your way. On this day, oh dear Father, have it your way. The cafe, oh the cafe, everything will go my way. On this day, oh dear Father, don't delay. Oh, the cafe, everything will go my way. On this day, oh dear Father, our cafe. Happy day, oh dear Father, don't delay. Happy day, on this day, don't delay. Oh dear Father, don't delay. The cafe, the cafe, everything will go my way. The cafe, the cafe, everything will go my way. The cafe, everything will go my way. On this day, oh dear Father, our cafe. If it were only quick to happen, no more cold brew, no, not for me. On this day, one degree, no more cold brew, but craft and passion. Quick to happen. No more cold brew, but craft and passion. It only quick to happen. No more cold brew, no, not for me. On this day, a new decree. No more cold brew, but craft and passion. No more cold brew, not for me. It's a new decree. No more craft.
Those two always fighting over coffee. What's the difference between cold brew and hot coffee, anyways? But each one to their own in their own way. This word to those who argue thus: you're drinking sophisticated bean juice. And here's a little fact for you to ponder, that a soy vanilla latte is really and truly a 3-bean soup.
So that's all for this episode. You've been listening to the Classical Queer Podcast, and Jake and I look forward to being with you next month. The incidental music is courtesy of Jared Miller, and the show was produced by Samantha Jane.